Hey guys, what is going on? So I just wanted to talk about the newest product from Intelligent Elephant, and that is Minoxidil. So I posted this on my story. I figured nobody really cared because I don't really talk about hair loss all that much, even though I do run a hair loss protocol. But I got a whole lot of DMs, surprisingly, about this. So I am going to be talking about my experience with it, both in terms of my experience with Minoxidil thus far, as well as this product, which I started using today. So the reason I'm doing it on this channel is because my other channel is primarily about supplements, specifically testosterone and ecdysterone, and the YouTube algorithm punishes me whenever I post about anything other than those things. So I try and sprinkle in things that maybe my audience would be interested in that are outside of that, kind of field, and Minoxidil is absolutely not fitting the bill there. So I apologize. I know that this channel is small right now and I don't really post here that much, but this is going to be more dedicated to training, miscellaneous stuff that I wouldn't otherwise do on my main channel because I don't want the algorithm to constrict it and kill it. That would be bad. Okay, so I apologize for that. But anyway, Minoxidil, this is not a product that I'm new to at all. I've been using it on and off for probably 5 years at this point. I first noticed for myself that I had a slightly receded hairline when I was 16 years old. I was in a locker room tying my shoes. Somebody took a picture where my head was down like that, and I noticed it for the first time. I've noticed it in pictures since then when I was in high school. I kind of ignored it for the most part. Didn't think it was that bad or anything like that. But when I was like 19, 20 years old, I discovered Minoxidil, which is it's Rogaine, like Rogaine, the brand name. That's what it is. Minoxidil is like the generic version, whatever you want to call it. I heard about people growing their beards with Minoxidil. I'm not sure how I was introduced to this concept, but it was about 5 years ago when it was much more kind of niche, right? Like now Derek talks about that and it's a bit more common. I know that some of the Gorilla Mind athletes, like when they heard about this product, they were like, hey, we're going to grow beards. And, it's funny how that's how it is seen as, when in reality, it is only really approved for your head. But that is the context that I used it in. And I had a lot of success using it that way. Okay, so my personal experience with it was really fast results for the beard. Now, it didn't give me a full beard, but it basically took my facial hair from standard teenage boy to like what I have now, basically. So if you want to hear more about that, I certainly can go into more depth. I actually used to log my results with videos, and I got a lot of views doing that. No longer up, but it was pretty interesting for some people because it was very uncommon back then to do it for your beard, whereas now it's pretty common. So in that regard, I had a lot of success with the beard. Unfortunately, when you stop using Minoxidil, you don't necessarily retain everything. So basically, to keep it simple, your hair can start growing. It can be kind of like a baby hair, and it can grow all the way into like a full-blown adult hair. And for those ones that are like full-blown, like thick hairs, those likely will stay, but anything that's less than that usually fades if you stop using Minoxidil. So it's not necessarily that you have to stay on it forever from a beard context, although that is true for the scalp. Okay, and I will talk about that in a second, but I've noticed when I get off Minoxidil, if I'm not using it, my beard density goes down, but I still like have a beard, or at least whatever this is. My cheeks are still kind of patchy, but all the other patchy areas that I used to have filled in very quickly when I started using it. I did have a lot of success with that, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get the full beard because I still have like these patches in my cheeks, and I don't even really want a full beard anyway. But either way, it is usually seen as more of a long-term, takes 3 to 6 months to see results on your scalp, but on your beard, it's kind of much more rapid, and the hair that you grow usually stays with you if you're on it for long enough. So it's not a short-term thing either way, but it is much more seen as like a forever thing if you use it for your head. And it is kind of a medium-term thing if you use it for your beard. So buying one bottle is probably not going to be the way to go. Okay, this is, and I don't want to be your source for Minoxidil in terms of how you should use it or anything like that. Please research this stuff yourself in terms of like side effects and everything like that. But anyway, I have a lot of, experience with it. And when I come off minoxidil, even in my present day, when I don't really use it for my beard, like currently I'm not using it on my beard at all. And so it's not quite as dense because this is going to help. I'm pretty sure it is a vasodilator. So it basically just gives extra blood flow to those areas, which allows nutrients to come to the hair follicles and allows them to grow. Okay, so if you're not using it, you're not going to be getting that benefit, and therefore your hair may suffer to some extent. And that's something that I've noticed, but I personally don't use minoxidil for my beard anymore. That being said, I do use it on my head as part of a hair loss regimen. So I currently use, now in terms of the Kirkland brands, the main one that's quite a bit cheaper than this. So by the way, this is $30 per bottle. So it is quite a bit more expensive than Kirkland. The reason that is the case is because this is a fast drying, non-greasy formula. And I'll talk about why that may or may not be important for you personally. But basically, I use Kirkland for my beard, but when I would use it in my hair, I didn't really, like it all that much. And I only have a receding hairline like in my temples as opposed to like the crown of my head. And, so I don't have to like rub it all in. I don't have to use as much. And so the greasy hair aspect of it isn't as prominent there. But if I use it like in my beard hair, it definitely is. Okay. So those are things that people may, depending on how much you're willing to spend, that may be something that you really value, that it's not as greasy. Especially if you're using it on your scalp, that's going to be a big issue for some people. If you're going to be using this for the rest of your life, which, unfortunately is kind of something you have to do, that's probably something you don't want to have to deal with. So $30 a month versus I think Kirkland is maybe like $10 a month or something like that. So it's significantly more expensive. And it's the same ingredient. So this is not going to work any better than, regular minoxidil. It's the same thing. It's the same 5% concentration. It's just more so that it's not greasy. It's fast drying, and that can be more convenient. And ultimately, sticking to a, regimen, a hair loss regimen, if you can't actually, like if you hate using the product so much because it makes your hair, look terrible, if it's so greasy that you hate it, obviously you're not going to be able to stick with it. And that's what it's kind of been like for me, in terms of using minoxidil on my, in these areas, which I have to use less. I got out of the habit of using it because I just don't enjoy that type of thing. So what I personally use is actually a topical finasteride, minoxidil, and tretinoin mix. Okay, so I, have been taking finasteride for a while. Sometimes I forget to, take the actual like oral finasteride. And doing that and then doing the minoxidil and having to do that, doing the minoxidil twice a day, when am I going to do it? And then having it be that greasy, drippy mess that I'm kind of used to. It just wasn't something that I could kind of consistently do. Whereas what I currently use is like a gel. So it doesn't like drip. It's not as bad. I get that minoxidil. I get I get the topical finasteride as opposed to the oral finasteride. And realistically, you don't want to inhibit your DHT, or you don't have to inhibit your DHT systemically. You can do it via the scalp, right? And so that is another thing that people have used, and what I've used in the past is something called RU58841. Is that what it is? I don't know. You can look up Derek's videos on it, but basically that is a topical anti-androgen as well. Okay, so finasteride, if you're not familiar with that, it blocks your DHT, I believe, about 80%. And that is something that you would take orally as a capsule, but they do have topical finasteride. So you can actually apply it to the areas where you need DHT to not bind. I think it binds to the hair follicle. I'm not 100% sure. Again, if you want more info, just go look at Derek's content on this stuff. But basically, finasteride is going to be what takes care of the DHT component of hair loss, which is actually causing you to lose hair in the first place. And minoxidil is going to allow you to grow hair. Okay, so this is, the vasodilator. It's going to help your hair actually grow. Okay, so when used in tandem, and also, I'm not even going to get into these, but using a derma roller, using ketoconazole shampoo, right? All these things together can not only prevent hair loss, but can also potentially reverse it. And I've actually not seen any hair loss reversal just using finasteride or just using minoxidil, but when I use them together, I have started to see hair loss reversal where I'm actually starting to get new hairs, okay? And I've also, like I said, I've experimented with RU, but trying to do all of those at the same time is just something that I can't remember. And so it's much easier for me to just do the one thing, which is the minoxidil, finasteride, tretinoin thing. Okay, so you do need a prescription to get finasteride. So I have one. Minoxidil is over the counter, so you can just buy this. And usually, you know, people would rather deal with minoxidil than finasteride because finasteride has its own potential side effects. Again, all this information is just stuff that you would get a much more kind of comprehensive view if you looked into it yourself. If you watch Derek's videos, he has a lot of in-depth things regarding all of these. But basically, I've been using minoxidil, just not in the Kirkland brand sense for quite some time because I find that I can't really adhere to that. So this is supposed to be, you know, non-greasy, and I applied it today. It seems to live up to what it says on the bottle or what it says in the product description where it's non-greasy, fast drying. It was a much better experience. I've only applied it once, but it is a much better experience than what I'm used to with a Kirkland brand minoxidil. So I will continue to take this and see what happens. And I'm going to actually be doing it on my beard area here because this is the only area that I really keep. And you guys can see if it gets more dense. Spoiler alert, it probably will because that's usually what I notice. But yeah, in terms of, you know, actually growing more beard, I've had success with that. In terms of using it in tandem with finasteride, I've had success regrowing some hair. Whereas finasteride by itself doesn't seem to do that for me, but it does hopefully prevent future hair loss, it seems. So yeah, I'll be using it for both, you know, my hair and my beard area. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But this is just me, I guess, going over potentially the differences that you might see in terms of it not being greasy and being more fast drying. But I've only used it one day. And, you know, if that is worth it for you, you know, the greasiness and stuff that you don't want to have to deal with, you're willing to pay extra money, maybe that's something you want to do. If you've never tried minoxidil, I'd probably just buy, you know, Kirkland brand and see if you can tolerate that. And if you want, you know, to try something else that is more sustainable for you, potentially do this. I'm guessing it's going to be a small group of people who actually care about this, but I'm just putting it out there because it's a new product from Intelligent Elephant and I got a lot of questions about it. So, just putting out my experience with minoxidil personally, and I will be, I guess, logging this, in terms of results. So I'm not going to see any better results taking this, in terms of hair, like scalp, right? So I'm not going to go over that. It's much more so just what kind of consistency is it? Is it non-greasy? Is it better than Kirkland? And then the beard thing, considering I'm not currently taking minoxidil there, you know, maybe it'll help there as well. So again, this is not going to be me going over my results with this necessarily, other than potentially the beard, but more so just experimenting with what the benefits are of this relative to Kirkland brand, which is mostly just, you know, how annoying is Kirkland brand relative to this? Is it worth the difference in costs, which is going to be very subjective. Okay. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated and I'll talk to you soon.